So this is the kind of morning scar of the Communist Party, which is running the front page about closing classroom. And that is clearly pointing out the fact that Boris Johnson's new lockdown is not. That was yesterday's, and today's morning scar is the one about 40-day delay cost the lives of thousands. Today being Tuesday, the 3rd of November 2020. And these are some of the front pages of the morning scar that we have not shown. This is the one on the dated 31st of October and the 1st of November, that is Sunday and Saturday and Sunday. And this one is the 30th of October, Friday. And this is the morning scar's take since the report on the Labour Party's so-called anti-Semitism kind of inquiry by the Inequalities and Human Wrongs Corruption confected by Hattie Harman with the collusion of the mental slave Trevor Terrible Phillips. Trevor Terrible Phillips was the one that had been given the task to demolish the Commission for Racist Enslavement because it was not racistly enslaving enough. So the Trevor Terrible Phillips was appointed the first chairman of the Inequalities and Human Wrongs Conspiracy and Corruption. So these are some of the other headlines of the morning scar of during the last 2 weeks. And we shall be then resuming the evidential diagnosis of the corrupt mayor post holder, the crook, John Biggs in Tower Hamlets, and his latest statement, retailed by the racist liar Mike Brooke the Crook on the East London Idiotizer, saying that John the lying Biggs was conceding kind of the demand against the mayor post by giving up some of his powers. Now that is a very serious admission. And that shows that if there is a campaign, whatever the degree of its kind of power and organization, if there is a campaign that the racist Biggs confesses is, according to his illegitimate standards, legitimate, because this one has been tagged onto the conservative councillor, sole councillor almost, and that is the one that Biggs is acknowledging. The concession that Biggs has kind of staged about his power, he's giving some of his powers in a twisted way, typically twisted way, shows that he always has abused those powers and has denied that he was abusing them. Now it is looking like some white members of the community in Tower Hamlets are taking some steps to have the corrupt post scrapped. Now, this is theoretical because we are still a long way before the significant number of signatures collected and a decision is made to hold the referendum against keeping the elected mayor post. So theoretical because the conservatives lied in 2010. And as we have published many times, the conservative front person in Tower Hamlets, Peter Golds, lied, and he himself kind of fantasized about becoming a candidate. And so therefore the principle of not having an elected mayor is not something that the conservatives have in the past stuck to. So his colleague, the other councillor on Tower Hamlets Council, the conservative councillor, who says that he is a conservative councillor sometimes, he says he's not a conservative councillor some other times. Whatever the kind of frequency of his changing his kind of party political identity, the fact is he's a conservative. And the fact that he's white means that he is given the kind of measure and weight by the racist liar Michael Brook the Crook that is comparable to thousands of other people in the borough. And many thousands have already signed petitions against the mayor system various times. But those signatures have not been taken to the logical stage, not because there were not enough signatures to be taken to the logical stage, but because the so-called leaders of the signature campaign at those particular times lied. So this time, Weeks is saying that he's going to kind of reduce his power. That is another way of stopping another petition that will really, if taken logically to the logical stage, see the end of the corrupt mayor system. And Biggs is trying to sabotage that final stage. Final because if this time the petition doesn't go to the logical stage, then it will be another 10 years before the mayor system can be changed. And that will be too late for too many people in the borough affected by the corruption, criminality, racism, and lying and fraud by the council being misused and abused by the crooked incumbent in the crooked post. And yesterday we started talking about at length about Jackie Odunoy, and we referred also to the commissioners that Eric Pickles, the Secretary of State at the time in 2014, had appointed to take over the council's administration, as Fleet Street, which we are diagnosing, had misreported because the commissioners that Eric Pickles had sent in were over exaggerated in terms of the remit, in terms of their kind of scope and importance and engagement in the administration of the Tower Hamlets Council. Any student of the textbook version of administrative law in England, any genuine student that is, would know that the commissioners and the Secretary of State sending commissioners to take over local councils is more of a show than a reality. And in the case of Tower Hamlets, in 2014, Eric Pickle sent Ken Knight, a former fire bridesman, and another man from Hackney. Those are the two. There were other two, but these two were the main ones. The Ted Jury, a racist liar, overpraised, as Ted Jury overpraised his own role in the bringing down of Luther Roman. On the record, let's say that Ted Jury not only did not bring down Luther Roman, but Ted Jury actually discouraged the petition against Luther Roman when it was filed, because Ted Jury ridiculed the main signature organizer, Andy Arlam. Regardless of our own factual, evidential, and continued criticism of Andy Arlam himself on many grounds, on that occasion, on the matter of Andy Arlam organizing the petition against the election of 2014 of Luther Roman, Ted Jury got it wrong. So when that petition resulted in Luther Roman being declared ousted by the election commissioner in the second year since the petition was filed, Ted Jury has no factual ground to say that he played a significant role in bringing down Luther Roman. Because the evidence that Mori looked at was not the evidence that Ted Jury had published. So Ted Jury cannot factually claim that. Ted Jury is a tickler and a racist, also provocateur. He's the one that the mass murderer in Norway had been inspired by, in effect, if not by name. Because most of the anti-Muslim kind of propaganda that the Norwegian mass murderer relied on was issued from sources in England, and almost 80% of those factual kind of sourced items were from Ted Jury. So there is a pause there. So Ted Jury was not only not in accord with the democratic options available to scrap the mayor post, but he was also seriously inflaming and inventing racist hatred against Muslims in Tower Hamlets, which was extrapolated to misrepresent both the actual reality of Tower Hamlets and also the reality of life and politics in the UK. So we shall be talking about Ted Jury in evidence-based, detailed, dedicated pieces. This one we are talking about John Biggs and his lying concession. The fact that he has considered any amount of power, theoretically, to councillors shows that he has deprived councillors of the power. And as I have said in my commentary on Newham's Robin Wales, before Roxana Fias got into his place, Newham Council was under the elected mayor post holder Robin Wales for 16 years. That is, starting from 2002 until 2018, that is 16 years. And I have said, in those 16 years, not one single councillor on Newham Council, every time there was an election of the councillors as well. But not one councillor stood up and made a really truthful, fact-based, evidential objection to the abuses that Robin Wales was indulging in every single day of the week. There was not one councillor in Newham in those 16 years who stood up and demanded accountability by the decision makers affecting people's lives and welfare. Nor did a councillor stand up and make the case for the executive mayor to be held to account, transparently held to account, and all the rest of it. So when on the 4th of September 2018, 4th of September 2018, Roxana Fias surfaced behind me at the reception of the East Ham Town Hall and addressed me by congratulating me and praising me and thanking me for holding her and her cabal to account and causing them to be seen to be transparent. That short kind of conversation contained long history and long material evidence of the corruption that she had actually colluded with while Robin Wales was in post, and she since has been colluding with and perpetrating herself. And this is what time now? It is now 23:27 GMT in the evening of Tuesday, the 3rd of November 2020. And Roxana Fias has been engaged in the same kind of abuse of the power of the executive mayor that Robin Wales indulged in for 16 years. And contrary to the claims retailed to enhance Roxana Fias's image, retailed by Michael Gillard, Roxana Fias cannot be given any credit for organizing a democratic opposition to the undemocratic and anti-democratic regime fronted by Robin Wales. So we shall be talking in detail about Newham in due course. Back to Tower Hamlets and back to the lying being perpetrated this week by Mike the racist liar crook Brook on the East London Idiotizer website, claiming that the liar John Biggs, of whose propaganda business the liar racist Brook is a part, that the liar Biggs was giving information to the public that he was going to give up some of his powers. That is a complete lie. It is a fact that this has been published by the racist liar Brooke, but the contents of that statement are lies. When I asked Biggs in July 2015 to sit down with me, just as I had asked Luthuraman over 6 calendar years to sit down with me so that he would get the updates on all the crimes and criminality going on in Tower Hamlets Council. Biggs said that I should make an appointment, and he gave me his card. He didn't say he would not meet me. That's the point I'm making here. And he gave me his card, and I rang the number, and I never got an appointment with him. Now I shall be detailing the many lies of John the racist liar Biggs as part of the evidence that anything he says about giving up power is a lie, that he does not recognize democracy, does not recognize accountability. Above all, he does not recognize the serious life-affecting impact of the behavior and the lying decisions made by the council employees on the lives of people that are affected by those decisions. And in Tower Hamlets Council, there is no actual accountability or audit forum that actually does the audit and accountability without wasting the time, vital time, that the victims of the wrong decisions, the prejudiced decisions, the racist decisions need. Action in time is the crucial phrase here. It is no good to the victims and the targets of the wrong decisions if endless amount of time is intentionally wasted by the council in order to avoid accountability and avoid responsibility, which is what Tower Hamlets Council has been doing with John Biggs's active collusion and his active encouragement and active intention. John Biggs is the kind of liar that would stab people in broad daylight while looking completely unfazed as to the crime that he commits, as he did with the 82-year-old Mr. Ray. He was a man in his 80s. He was 82 years old in 2015. So if he's alive, he will be 87 years old now in 2020. Mr. Sameshwar Ray, he was a man from the Caribbean but of Indian kind of origin. And Mr. Ray was the oldest member of a group of persons who were members of a housing cooperative in London, E3, in 2015. And these tenants and members had organized a petition against the Tower Hamlets Council's employees, harassing them, taunting them, torturing them, and attacking them, and making their life absolutely miserable. And the personnel involved included Jackie O'Donoghue. And Jackie O'Donoghue was the one that I had been engaged with in order to kind of get the council to be held to account. When I presented my questions to Tower Hamlets Council, full council so-called, on the 26th of June, 2013. And then I put a specific question of 222 words to the so-called cabinet meeting chaired by Lutfur Rahman on the 3rd of July 2013. As a result of those two, I got directed or misled into having contacts with Jackie O'Donoghue. Although I got the information from Miss Louise Fleming in the Democratic Services, I don't believe that the information she gave me was her choice. She was told to give me the information that Jackie O'Donoghue would be in contact with me in the next day, which she wasn't. In the next day, I got an email from about the same time, I got an email from a woman called Nicole Layton, who said that she was a PA, or she was the PA to Jackie O'Donoghue, who would get in touch with me the following day, which Jackie O'Donoghue never did. So Jackie O'Donoghue wasted a lot of my time, and he wasted my time, and she lied. And she kept changing the terms of reference of the contracts, as did her boss, Aman Dalby, who separately had been the recipient of hundreds of thousands of council money under the pretext that he claimed, racially discriminated against. Aman Dalby is a professional ethnicity-linked criminal. He has been engaged in ethnicity-linked criminality for decades. And he has received millions of pounds by parading himself as an ethnicity-linked professional. He was already in post in Tower Hamlets Council before Lutfur Rahman got in as the elected mayor in October 2010. But once Lutfur Rahman got in, Lutfur Rahman decided that Aman Dalby, the ethnicity-linked Muslim named liar, was the best person to become the chief executive of Tower Hamlets Council, where Lutfur Rahman was intending to kind of parade himself as a Muslim-friendly kind of mayor. That was not anything to do with the Muslim community wanting him to do that. It was Lutfur Rahman's corrupt kind of strategy that actually ended in Lutfur Rahman appointing Aman Dalby an acting chief executive at one stage. And Dalby being questioned by some other councillors on the council, Labour Party councillors, as a result of which Dalby filed claims against the council as a whole, saying that the council was discriminating against him on ethnic ground, race ground, faith ground, whatever. So that's the basic kind of introduction to Aman Dalby. And Aman Dalby, I am using the term against all of these criminals as criminal is defined in the textbook. I'm not using the word criminal or criminals against them individually or collectively because I have no better word that I can use. Criminal is what they were and what they have been and what they are. But criminality and being criminal does not preclude the perpetrator criminal or criminals from doing other, what is called civil wrongs and damages. So the question of criminality and tort combined in the behavior of these criminals and wrongdoers. So the One word is or term is criminal or criminals, and the other is the wrongdoers. Wrongdoer or wrongdoers to signify one individual wrongdoer or more than one individual wrongdoer. So the obstruction caused in the way of the targets of the wrongdoing and the targets of the criminality perpetrated by anyone in post in a council include the obstructions include the fact that there is no constitutional law remedies. As I said before, in time, remedies that can be obtained in short time by ordinary people who are the victims of the wrongs done by these criminals and wrongdoers. There is no constitutional law remedy built in the English legal system. So that is very important. And secondly, what remedies that exist cannot be kind of accessed by the person. Theoretically, there is a thing called judicial review. Now, judicial review is the most corrupt so-called constitutional law option available to members of the public who are wrongly treated by holders of public position or holders of posts in a council or in a public bodies, including in government and government department, including minister, including the prime minister, whatever. And it is, let me hasten to update on the fact that the reason why I call it the licensed law trade instead of the legal profession is not because I haven't got a kind of understanding of the legal profession, the phrase, but because calling it legal profession misrepresents the role that the licensed law trader criminals actually play. Most licensed law traders, also known as barristers, are liars, as are the overwhelming majority of the licensed law traders known as solicitors. And the fact that they are liars and not kind of upholders of the legal rights of people as objectively internationally defined is found in the admission by David Neuberger. Neuberger, who was just about to end his term as the first so-called president of the UK Supreme Court in 2017, had been recruited as a propagandist for the Brexiteering cause by David Lidington. Lidington, who served as the de facto deputy prime minister to Theresa May. And David Neuberger boasted in a spiel reported by Martin Bentham, the corrupt Home Affairs editor of the London Evenings, No Standard, as saying words to the effect that if Brexit is done, when Brexit is done or when Brexit has been implemented, London would become the center of the litigation of the world. That does not say anything about the center for rights through the courts. It said that all the wealthy crooks and criminals from abroad would converge in London and over-exploit what Neuberger presented under influence of David Lidington, who had become a converted Brexiteer. They would indulge in abusing the largesse afforded to all the wealthy criminals by the corrupt legal bureaucracy in England. So we shall be talking more about this in the next part, and we shall actually start giving chapter and verse about John Biggs, Jackie O'Donoghue, Colin Cormack, Steve Hill, Mike Tyrrell, and other assorted criminals.